Okay, so hello. Um, as I've been telling you guys for like a couple weeks now, we're gonna take a field trip today of Washington, D.C. So I'm gonna do Zoom calls from tours and double decker buses and all sorts of stuff all day today. So what you guys are gonna do is you are still gonna do work, obviously. You still have homework to do. Um, but it's kind of a cool activity. So there's a bunch of little red dots on here. You see them? And then there's a bunch of questions down here that kind of go with them. There's only 8. It's not the end of the world. You have 8 problems, but there's 2 formulas that you may or may not have seen before. They definitely are formulas that you should have learned either in geometry or algebra 1, but you're looking at the midpoint formula and the distance formula. And so far, we are pretty good at plugging into formulas and getting answers, but I'm going to go over a couple examples of each one just in case. And I'm just going to pick points at random and show the work. So you have the 2 formulas down there and this giant map of Washington, D.C. So if you zoom in, you can see kind of different places. And I'm just going to pick a couple to do as some examples. So I'm going to write over here and I'm going to do change the color. I'm going to do some examples. So you have these notes, and then that way you're going to watch the video, take notes, and you can do this assignment on your own. You don't have to be a part of the Zoom call today if you don't want to, and just do this instead. If you want to get shown around Washington, D.C. and meet with me, you are more than welcome to kind of see whatever we see during the time of when your Zoom call is. So that's kind of where we're at. So it's going to be kind of on your own day today, but we are still going to meet. So it's up to you. So here's how I'm going to do it. The first one, we're going to do example 1. We're going to pick 2 locations. So I think, let's see, let's pick some fun places. Let's go, and they may or may not be the ones on the examples at the bottom because I really don't know. So if I pick the same ones, then you get free answers. But if I don't, then too bad. Okay, so some of my favorite places, let's see. I love the Lincoln Memorial. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that guy. So if we count his coordinates, you need the coordinates. You got to see what they are. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So it looks like he's negative 17, 0. Okay, so negative 17, 0. That's going to be the Lincoln Memorial. Okay, so I love the Lincoln Memorial, and I love FDR's memorial. It's actually one of my favorites. It's so pretty. It has a bunch of like quotes because he was super famous for his quotes. So let me change these colors actually down here because you can't really see it. And red is, we already used red. So let's go for this blue, I guess. So we picked here and we picked here. Roosevelt Memorial. So the Roosevelt Memorial, the point is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let me zoom in some so you guys can see this a whole lot better. Duh, that's so much better. All right, so Roosevelt. So Roosevelt Memorial is negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So negative 11, negative 8 is FDR, negative 11, negative 8. That's going to be the FDR Memorial. So those are my favorites. A couple years ago, well, I guess it's been a lot more than a couple years ago, I went to Easter sunrise service on the Lincoln Memorial steps, and it was the coolest thing ever. And FDR is just amazing, man, and he has so many amazing quotes. So hopefully you'll get to see those when I'm there today. If not, then you'll have to go someday for yourself and see. But here's how you do this. So the first thing we're going to do, there's 2 different formulas, like I said, the midpoint and the distance. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to find the midpoint between the 2 formulas. When you're doing this, every single X and Y value is X and Y. So you have to label them. This is going to be X1 and Y1 solely because it's the first point. And this is X2 and Y2. So we're trying to find the midpoint between those 2 distances. So it's like if you drew a line between from here to here, you're going to try to find the midpoint the point halfway between the two, and you're going to try to find the distance between the two. And obviously we can't ever really go the distance between there. I guess if you walked straight, you could, but if you were going to drive, you have to go on the actual roads, but you can walk across the grass and actually make it there. Although look, that part of it kind of goes over the water. So, you know, whatever. So midpoint formula is down here on the bottom, and you're going to plug in the values. So the midpoint is equal to, they're always dividing by 2, because the mid is like halfway. It's the average. You're finding the average between the 2 points. So x2 plus x1 is -11 plus -17. And y2 plus y1, which I just realized I didn't leave myself enough room, is going to be, let's kind of spread this out a little, -8 plus 0. Hopefully you guys can see that with my cool color pencils. So -11 and -7 is, or 17 is -28 over 2, and then -8 over 2 because plus 0. So that would be -14, comma, -4. So the midpoint between those two locations is -14, -4. Most of the time, they're going to be decimals. So it's actually pretty shocking that that came out to be a whole number. So that's pretty cool. So -14, -4, if you write that on here. So if we're at 11 was here. So 12, 13, 14, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is actually your midpoint. And you don't have to draw it on the graph for all of them. I'm just showing you as the example. That would be the midpoint. So if you were going to measure, that would be the halfway point. All right. So find the distance between the same 2 points. Okay. So you're not using the same points on the bottom, but if you were, we're going to use the same 2 points. So the distance formula, okay, is down here. You want to reference it. You guys should be able to see it. So down here on the bottom. So the distance is going to be the square. I don't think I have enough room to write it there. So let's move it actually. Sorry about that. I just want to not squash it. All right, so let's write it down on the bottom. The distance between the same 2 places, so we're still doing these same 2, is going to be the square root. You're going to add them up. You're going to subtract them here, and you're going to add them here. That's kind of the go-to. That's usually what I do is to start it. They're always subtracting because you're finding the distance would be the difference between 2. And it's kind of like the Pythagorean theorem. So it really is a Pythagorean theorem, but in a different form. But we're not going to go there. So x2, which is -11, minus x1, which is -17. Don't forget the negatives. And then y2, which is -8, minus y1, which is 0. Okay, so you have to do inside the parentheses first. So don't forget, negative turns to positive. So that's going to be 6 squared, right? 17 minus 11 is 6. And then this is going to be -8 squared. And then we're going to take the square root. So 36 plus 64 means that that's going to be, wow, 100. So I seriously picked 2 problems that have no decimals on accident. 36 plus 64, that doesn't happen, is the square root of 100. All right, so the square root of 100 is 10. So the distance is going to be 10 units, depending on the measure of each square. Okay, if we actually had like a scale and we said each square was a mile, it would be 10 miles. But in this case, we only have 10 units. So that means that this is 10, the distance is 10 units long. We don't have any scale to measure that by because I just made up this graph all by myself. So 10 is the distance. All right. So you would say that from here to here is 10. 10 whatever units. 10 squares. All right. So almost never, which I feel bad that that's the first example I gave you, but rarely do you have whole numbers. Usually both of these values are going to be decimals of some sort. So let's pick 2 other random ones for your example 2. So it's completely up to you. If you guys want to keep going, if you get the point, you can push pause and just do your work. If you want to see another example, then I will do another example. All right. So it's kind of the benefit of a video is you guys can pause or push stop or rewind however often you want. So let's do example 2. And let's pick, I actually have to move that because I didn't put that in the right place. Number 2. Let's pick 2 other places. Let's see. Lincoln is one of my favorite presidents. So I do like the Ford Museum. So Ford Theater. So let's go over here. I'm going to pick a new color. Let's see if orange is, maybe not orange. I'm trying to see what would look good on this map. Maybe lime green? Kind of blends in, so maybe not. Clearly, I didn't think this through, guys. So either way, we're going to pick, let's go with red. I'll just keep the red that's there. So we're going to pick the Ford Museum. So we're picking Ford. And let's see, what else should we pick? Where should we go? We're going to go to the Ulysses S. Grant Memorial. He's one of our presidents. We can go there. The Capitol building is pretty cool. So let's go to the Capitol building. All right, so we're going to go from the Ford Theater, which is where Lincoln got shot. That's why it's one of my favorites, because I really like Lincoln, President Lincoln. Not that I like that he got shot there, but it's cool history. So we're going to go from the Ford Museum or Ford Theater. John Wilkes Booth shot him in the Ford Theater while he was watching him play, minded his own business. And then they took him next door to his house because he lived really close, and he passed away. So that's where Ford Lincoln was shot. So over 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 2, 8 is the Ford Theater. And we're going to the Capitol building. The Capitol building is really cool. The U.S. Capitol. That's where like the Senate is and Congress and all them. So a lot of stuff happens there. There's also like an underground tunnel that I'm sure to go from the White House to the Capitol building. So there's all sorts of underground crazy tunnels in Washington, D.C. because none of those people are ever above ground. So the Capitol building is actually another one on 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got them right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 14, 0 because he's on the line. So we're trying to find the distance and the midpoint from there to there. Okay, that's where we're going. We're going from the Ford Theater to the Capitol building, and there could very well be an underground tunnel from there to there, and who knows? I don't know. And you can figure it out from there. So X1, Y1, label them. X2, Y2, label them. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the midpoint. I know we just used green. You guys know I'm OCD about my colors. All right, so the midpoint, you put up 2 big giant thingies. You always put it over 2. And it's always going to be X. It's just like a regular point. The X's are always first, the Y's are always second, because it's going to be X, Y. You're finding a point. So X's go first. So 14 plus 2. You're finding the average. So you add them up and divide by 2. And same with the Y's, 0 plus 8 divided by 2. So it's going to be 16 divided by 2 and 8 divided by 2. So again, a whole number. So maybe I picked all whole numbers. I don't know. Maybe the DC is made it that way on purpose. I have no idea. All right. So 8, 4 is your midpoint. That's the answer. So 8, 4, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's your midpoint. That's halfway between. That's the middle. All right. So then your distance formula. All right. So if we did, I don't know why I've said all right like 6 times. So if we do the distance formula, let's see if this one comes out like a whole number. So it's always going to be 2 sets of parentheses added together, squared with minus signs in the middle. That's the go-to. Okay, that's like the basis of the distance formula. Then you can do the same values you did. So 14 minus 2 because those are the x's. And then you can do 0 minus 8, the y's. So 14 minus 2 is 12 squared plus negative 8 squared, right? Which is 144 plus 64, always positive, because negative is still going to be positive when you square it. Negative times negative is positive. So 144 plus 64, I need my handy dandy calculator. So 144 plus 64 is 208, and that is not going to be a whole number. So distance. Now, here's the deal with this. You could break that down, right? We've done a lot of that breaking down, especially if you're in Algebra 2. We've done that a lot. But because you're talking real numbers and real digits and real values, you actually want the decimal value of that. So the square root of 208, and you do it in calculator. If you're using your phone, then you put 208 square root. It's backwards. I don't know why, especially if you have an iPhone. If you have an Android, I think it goes the right way. So 208 square root. And so your distance is 14.42. And you can round to there. And it's going to be units. I didn't give these values. I should have. Live and learn. I just made this lesson up. So that would be your distance, and that would be your midpoint. Okay, so you're not doing the same values on all of these. You're not going the same every single time because I made different ones on each one. So you're going to do just the midpoint for the ones on the left, and you're going to do just the distance for the ones on the right. And you just have to find them on the map and then figure out what their points are. Okay, so the points are the most important part. You have to know that this is 2.8. The Ford Theater is at 2.8, and the Capitol Building is at 14.0. That's how I got those values. Okay, so you're counting it based on the grid that I wrote. Obviously, it's not longitude and latitude. It's just the grid that I made. All right, so you're going to find the distance between all these points, these 8 problems, and you're going to enjoy going around with me tomorrow. So hopefully you guys get to see some of these places, and I will see you then. If you have any questions, we can go over it on Thursday, or you guys can send me messages in Remind. So I hope you have a great day. Love you. I'll see you tomorrow.